My name is Judith Hopf. I'm an artist living and working in Berlin. I'm from the very southwest.
Okay.
That was a good reason to go to Berlin. It was always a dream to leave the little town. I was taught in sculpture. I studied in Bremen. Then I moved on to study in Berlin at the UDK. I studied in a self-organized student project in the UDK that exists in the late 80s until the early 2000s. I think you could tell my work quite classic sculptural with tendencies to be narrative. Most works of mine are quite done by materials and also events that are quite rooted in everyday life culture, so it is not too much in reference to an idea of a classical artist, but more rooted in, I would say, everyday culture. The title of the show is Out because I thought it's an interesting word. It has very positive and very negative connotations or feelings. If you are in fashion-related understanding of the term out, it becomes more a nightmare or something what you really don't want to be. If you want to change something, you have to be out, and there's also the necessity for gay movement, for example, to be allowed to be out, or if you want to make political statements, you have to find an angora or a place where you can give out your opinion. And this is a very positive and emancipated attitude, and so I thought it's interesting to bring up the word. Yeah, I think it's for all artists always this and you can't be in all your artistic lifetime, of course, but I always thought also that it's a funny. Fear, since the whole project being an artist is not so much a story which is only about having success or not. It's quite a project, so it's okay. And it's also okay that things are sometimes super in. It's normal that it's not understood in all periods of generations or in all understandings of different generations seen in the same light, so it should be also. It's also a bit spooky if things are never out, and it's maybe also of importance. Yeah. And my point was always to try to make a distance by using humor, but it is also not that I think, oh, I have to do something very funny. I would love to sometimes change that, but it seemed that it always comes up again. I can't, it's not a plan, it's just how it is. Maybe also a point where you overcome the knowledge that you're not very mighty. And I think if you make a humor in that situation, then it's, it's a form of distance to get over things. And it's not easy to do humorous things. That's funny, I think. I don't know. It's not a plan, it's just how it is. In relation to the hanging cinema, which I use often to show films in, there's one reason that I built this flying cinemas, which is done by fabric, and people have to dive in to see the little films. One reason I invented those cinemas is that I don't want to make the room dark, only to show a film. I think that the spaces we have in museums or in other institutions or in off spaces are a big part of the whole culture we are producing, and I like them and try to also celebrate them, and I don't want to change the whole atmosphere of it, but I want to react to it, and I also want that the viewer gets part of the sculpture, that it gets a bit eaten up by the cinema, because from the outside, seeing only the legs standing on ground and having no body but a black cube around you that looks a bit like a strange animal with a lot of legs, and it could be also something different, and it has nothing to do with the individual opinion of one person. It gets an object by itself or a part of a whole atmosphere, and maybe that's the same with the wall, that it gets in relation to what you can understand of yourself in relation to the arts. It's not so much about allowing something or not allowing, it's more about inspiration and awareness, what you can do in a museum, what possibilities you have, let's say. The pair, I don't know exactly why it came, but I thought it would be interesting to make something organic with brickstone, or to symbolize it back. And it's, again, maybe a bit saying a hello to the comical understanding of things that are around you and that you could imagine, or missing around you. Somehow it was also influenced by the feeling that I don't want to work with any more bad material, which is only waste or something, because I'm a bit fed up with producing all the time aesthetically commodities, let's say, which are so often not so, they use quite a lot of energy, and I think that this material I like because it's so simple, and it's just hold it together with this cement thing, which is not nature maybe, but nearby nature, and I think it is interesting that you can do so many things with it. I started to test out gestures where the computer is already part of the body in a very minimal understanding of sculpture, relating to minimalist art as understood by Donald Judd, or and I did them first with wood and now developed them further in steel, and developed other gestures you could see around you, for example, in situations where people are waiting for their train or for their flights, and they just check online what's going on their laptops. I think maybe it's changing now to next generations to the handy, but this is still celebration of having flat things going to be part of your body, and that you don't get rid of them somehow. I like to play in, maybe here in that case a bit, to support the people to go around in a room and to get in relation to size and to direction and to sense or non-sense of this kind of thing, whatever a wall can do. It can be quite abstract. Here in a museum it has tendencies to get an object, but it could be also something to sit on or to separate or to conflict with, but it's also just for fun. I come from the 90s, and there was a lot of hope that you could bring discourses in the museum as an aesthetical action, and I would say I'm not so sure whether I want to celebrate that most, but I want to keep it open to a variation of possibilities what a museum can give and do. I don't want to reduce it. I don't think that anything is bad about art in general. It is not to, it is often that people think that it should be reachable for everybody, for example, and I think, yes, of course, but on the other hand, it's always a bit work, and you should also be able to work it a bit, to trust that, or to be curious enough to rethink what you know and things like that. And that's why I'm always a bit skeptical. If I'm not in position to allow anybody something, it's more that I want to inspire to think how you can place your body in relation to what's around you. I think that you should not force creativity or creative processes, and you should not get I think you can't work longer than 2 or 3 hours a day creatively, and the rest should be curiosity for the things around you, and don't force everything. Don't push it too hard. Maybe that's what I'm saying, but nobody believes that anyway.